Hi, Brandon Artisan, president of Champion Strategies, and we're continuing on with our public speaking workshop. We started the last time I talked with part one of mistakes, so let's get into part two of the mistakes that causes a one-sided conversation, especially if you're sitting in the audience listening to someone in the front of the room. So, what do we need to do about it when we feel that the last two or three speeches just didn't go right? Well, you need to start picking up on the physical signs. In other words, look at the audience and see if they're paying attention to you or have they already left you, they're on their device. That's telling you that you're missing the mark. You're not listening and watching for the verbal clues. Communications is about nonverbal and verbal clues, especially if you're in front of the room. The other thing is, we assume that your listener understands everything that you do. If you're one of those leaders that just dumps messages and you feel that people should have learned the way you've learned, you're going to miss the mark also. Years ago, I was conducting a leadership evaluation of some people that were public speaking and giving feedback on what I saw. And many times, people used phrases, terms that were internal for the business or the workplace, but the audience don't know what those alphas mean. And we need to really be paying attention by looking, seeing, watching, and explaining more. So if the person or persons that I was evaluating would have set the situation up a little bit better by letting the customer and letting the audience what's going on. Here's why I'm doing this. Well, you could have kept them a little bit longer. So, what do we do about it? These mistakes that cause the one sided conversations. Keep it simple. That's all. Use plain language, avoid the jargon, avoid all of the things that really turn off the audience or the listeners. Make some space for understanding. That's where we want to catch them at the beginning with an explosion or something that's going to set them back on the heels as we go through our story. Speak in shorter segments so that your listeners can really start to assimilate in their head what exactly you're trying to give them as far as a jewel. And that's why you're up there as a public speaker. But always make the listener responsible for understanding what you were trying to deliver in your presentation, your content. And that is the most important thing. People tend not to ask leaders out of fear of looking silly. Maybe it's a big star and you don't want to be bothered. But second, listeners many times don't understand and they're afraid to approach people to get more information of how they can do more research on where you were coming from. So instead of that happening, knowing that may happen, what is so hard if you're doing a visual of putting up where they can get some additional research or how they can contact you for more information if you do not have any time after the speech to talk to members of the audience, your team members, or if you're the teacher, you have another class coming up and you cannot talk to those students right then. But mistakes happen all the time. So that's why for our teachers that are already back in front of the room or will be starting in September, please Let your students know exactly what's going on each and every period that you meet with them. Don't let them leave out of the room confused because it's just going to get worse. If you're that new supervisor, that new manager, and you're doing something with your team and you don't know if they got it, what is so hard about doing one-on-ones or small groups, just going over the highlights of what you did in the meeting? We must make sure that they understand that team solution selling, everybody on the team has to pull their own weight in order for us to be successful. If you're a public speaker and you're still trying to find some ways out there, continue to do what you're doing now. Research, find out where you fit in, and you'd be amazed. Maybe this is the industry where a great career change can make you satisfied because you're doing what you're doing. Once again, Brandon Hardison, President of Champion Strategies, for our public speaking workshop. And as always, in parting, you go out and make it a change.